Guide us to thy perfect light. That's what we sang a few minutes ago. It ends every verse of the hymn, We Three Kings, the Epiphany hymn. Guide us to thy perfect light. Christmas time is just shot full with light in all kinds of ways. It's probably something deeply human in our part of the world, in the north, because it's the darkest at this time of year. And so we have Christmas lights and we have Christmas candles, and we sing about light in all kinds of ways, and light is there in the core classic scriptures that we hear at Christmas time. From the prophet Isaiah, the people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. And again from Isaiah in the reading for Epiphany, which will be tomorrow, arise, shine, for your light has come. In the stories of Jesus' birth, there's light. When the angel appears to the shepherds, it says that the glory of the Lord shone around them. And in that other story, which we have just heard, the Epiphany story, the Magi find their way to probably the toddler, not the baby Jesus, but the toddler Jesus, by following the light of a star. So there's light involved in all kinds of ways at this time of year, and it comes right to the core of what Christmas is proclaiming. The Gospel according to John has no stories of the Nativity, no stories of Jesus' birth or of his childhood. It starts rather at the beginning of time with a great philosophical, theological, poetic celebration of what is going on, and it all comes to the point which is the Christmas point, where John says the Word, and we'll talk about the Word in a moment, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That's Jesus. The Word of God, fully expressed in a human being. The Word became flesh. I just want to back up in John's Gospel and see how John plays with this idea of the Word and how it relates to light. That Gospel starts out in words that are probably familiar to, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What came into being in him was life. And listen to this. And the life, that's the life that comes through the Word who made flesh as Jesus, the life was the light of all. It's so easy to let that slip by. Not the light of some people. Not the light of the right people. Not the light of the people who are like us. The light of all people. And then this wonderful, glorious phrase, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome. Think of all the things that have happened, some of them horrible, terrible things, since the birth of Jesus. And yet that light has not been overcome. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. I don't know if that's the most literal translation of the Greek or not, but it's a good one. It's a hopeful one. But I also love the older translation, which said, the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness could not comprehend it. Now that literally means couldn't get its fingers around it, couldn't wrap its hands around it. We could imagine the darkness trying to cover up the light and maybe crush it. It couldn't do that. It couldn't get its fingers around it. But I also like what the word comprehends in our normal language today, which is probably why they changed the translation. Because for us it has to do with understanding it. The darkness just couldn't understand the light. It just couldn't get it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it, and the darkness cannot comprehend it. That's right at the heart of what we celebrate at Christmas. So I'd like to think about that light as we come to the end of Christmas this year, and the way it shines in people. Remember, the light is the light of all people. I'm thinking about President Jimmy Carter. It's not the time to evaluate the politics of his presidency. We know there's a lot of different opinions about that. I'm thinking about the gifts of the long span of the decades of his life. The light in his life that nobody would disagree with. The decency and the dignity and the honesty and the compassion and the servant's heart, grounded publicly and without shame in his faith in Jesus Christ. The light was shining through that life. And whatever we think about his brief 4 years as president, we can give him. We can be grateful for that during these days when he's being the light. But then I also want us to think for a moment about the ways that the light has come into our lives, specifically during this year's Christmas. Or maybe if it's not real clear to you for one reason or another, Christmas time in the past. I would have several of them that I could share, some of them in the church, some of them outside the church, in family and other ways, but what I particularly want to hold up for you is what it was like for me 2 weeks ago at Lessons and Carols to be sitting in that chair and have the choir all up here in a semicircle and be in the middle of that. What a powerful experience that was for me. Of the light that the darkness cannot overcome and can't comprehend. Powerful moment that I will hold on to along with a few others from Christmas this year. And you have them too. If there isn't one or two or three that are very obvious from the past 12 days or so, either in the church or outside the church, you've got some from Christmas times in the past. Times when the light is unmistakably shining. And as we move out of Christmas of this year, we want to hold those and treasure them in our hearts. And let the light that has shined guide us to the perfect.